You all can see the cows in the background, which is going to fit right into the story that I'm going to tell you all tonight. I wanted to do this one outside. You see the cows as the sun is setting, because it's kind of going to go along, well, with the story that was sent in. I had a viewer send a story in, and it's not a long story, but it is a true story, and I think these are very important to tell because live encounters are going to give us a lot of facts, and it's going to show us a lot of different things. So let's start with it. Him and his wife, he said, was sitting on their front porch looking out into their pasture, similar to this. They had their cows out, and they saw a pack of coyotes come running into the field. It's nothing to see coyotes run amongst the cows or whatever. Usually they don't bother a full-grown cow. These coyotes, on this particular night for some reason, they decide to start bothering the bull. Well, the bull is fighting the coyotes. He's spinning and everything, and of course the farmer said, he told his wife, he said, hey, watch. That bull's going to get one of them here in a minute. And they're fighting, and he said the dust is coming up, and the coyotes are barking and yelping and yipping how they do and everything. And it's just like this bull, he's running them off, and he's like, man, that's a good bull. He's protecting the herd, He told his wife here in a minute the coyotes will give up, and they'll run away. Well, they continued to fight. And as they continued to fight, he noticed one of the coyotes was a little larger than the other coyotes. He said almost kind of looked like the size of a Great Dane. It wasn't real masculine looking, but it was taller in the back. It was black, and he said it looked like a Great Dane compared to the other dogs. It was longer, taller, and everything. As they're fighting, it seemed to stay back and was kind of watching the bull without really fighting. It was circling slowly around while the other coyotes were fighting. So then, out of the blue, he says, this black coyote, or what he thought was a coyote, or Great Dane looking thing, runs toward the bull. And whenever it runs toward the bull, it goes bipedal, jumps on the bull's back. Then at that point, he said, I kind of thought, is that a man? Because he said it so much looked and moved like a man, but didn't look like a man. And he said it was about 500 yards away. Well, 500 yards is a long distance. It's at least from here to those back trees back there. Not the mountains, but the furthest back trees, probably close to 500 yards. So he said he's watching, and he gets these binoculars out, and they've ran to the back of the field now because they started out at fighting here, and they've run to the back. He's watching with these binoculars, and this creature is on the back of his bull. He said it reaches around, grabs the bull like around the jaws, and pulls the head straight back. And he said the bull just falls, and the dust goes up. There's no more yipping, no more barking, no more fighting. Then, the next thing he knows, all the animals are on top of the cow that's down, probably eating or trying to get a bite, tearing food from it. He runs in the house and he grabs his Mini 14, which is a .223 rifle. And it's a semi-automatic 223. So he runs in and grabs it. And he said he starts trying to steady it on his porch. He's got 4x4s for posts. So he says, I'm trying to steady it on the post and get a good shot at this creature, but all of them are moving around, and 500 yards is a pretty good shot, pretty good distance. He said he watches through his scope. This Great Dane looking creature reaches down, grabs one of the coyotes by its hand, and kind of throws it away from the bull. And he's like, I don't know if I should shoot this or not. I just don't think that's a coyote. Kind of like a man. And he said it's hard to pull the trigger on something you see bipedal doing human things, grabbing and throwing things. So he's watching it through his scope, he said, and as he's watching, it takes off running away from the rest of the herd. And when it's running, he said it's kind of like a gallop. It's kind of like, but moving weird, and it stops. And he said, I watch it through my scope, and I notice in its hand it has something big and red and bloody. And he said, I presumed it's got a big piece of meat. So he said, I decided I'm taking a shot at it. So he said, I leveled my gun out. I guessed the distance, guessed the trajectory, I guessed the bullet drift, and he said, I fired. And whenever he fired, he said, the bullet struck about 3 feet in front of it and a little short. The dust flies up. He said the creature looks toward the house, howls at the house, a deep, like, he said almost like a bull, but a long, deep howl, takes off running. And when it's running, it's kind of on its bipedals, but not really. He said it's running on 2 legs, using the third hand to kind of balance itself up while carrying it in its hand. So it's like running on its back legs, using its front leg as it runs, holding up the meat or whatever it is. And he says it runs away. He takes 2 more shots at it. He said they both missed. He was sure they missed. The other coyotes, of course, they take off running the other direction, which he thought was weird because they didn't follow the coyote that ran off. So he said, I don't know why it wouldn't follow them, because most of the time they will follow the pack. I coyote hunt a lot, and they do. They will follow the pack. Well, that night, they're sitting in their house, and he starts hearing outside his house that same howl. And they live out in the country in the middle of nowhere, and his wife tells him, please don't go outside, you know, we don't want you to get hurt. If you get hurt, it's just me and the kids in the house. And he's itching, he said, to go outside. He said, Mike, I wanted to go out so bad I couldn't stand it. He said, I had the gun loaded, but his wife was scared and the kids were scared, so he stayed in the house. He said it wasn't long, they started hearing big bangs on the house, like something was just banging the side of the house. He said it sounded like it was throwing large rocks, just hitting the house, you know. And he said it lasted for a little while. Then finally it stopped, everything got quiet, and there was no more. The next morning, they get up and they go outside, and they notice something really weird. All the rabbit cages in the back, all the doors are open. All over the side of the house, it looks like somebody threw tomatoes, he said, against his house. It had grabbed his rabbits and had slammed them into the side of his house so hard that it left huge, bloody, like tomato marks, he said, on the house. There's a car coming, guys. What happens when you film live? And he says, whatever it was had got his kids' rabbits and had smashed them under the side of the house. And he thinks it was kind of a payback for what had happened. So it's just happened 3 nights ago, and they're waiting to see if any more happens. You all know that we have a full moon coming up. We're not in the full moon yet. We're still in the gibbous part. This is whenever I speculated that they hunt. And that's why I've got the moon on my new logo, because I was the one that came up with this theory. They hunt by the moon, but not by the full moon, but by the small light of the moon, using the bars in their eyes to be able to see and have that extra advantage at night over us. On a full moon, we can see pretty good, and I'll show you guys on a full moon how good you can see out here. A human can see pretty good, but on a half moon, you can't see real good. And I probably won't be able to show you tonight because you can see we've got a lot of cloud cover. But anyways, whatever this thing was, it really made me think about, you know, how it grabbed the one by the back of the neck and it threw it. How it was running with this in its hand. It would run kind of on its back leg, but use its kind of a third leg to stay up and run. And it knew the gunshot. It howled at him. To me, that was a warning. And then coming back and doing that, that shows me that they are vengeful, and they're very sinister, and they will come after you if you hurt them. So, you know, if you do shoot at one or you're having trouble, probably be careful, because they're probably going to come up to your house. They came up to his. He's expecting them to come back. He actually went to town, he said, and he bought another rifle. And he said the reason he bought it is because he said, I just don't feel the .223 will kill it. He said it was nothing huge. He said it was nothing massive or thick, you know, or like the big Bigfoot. He said it was like a Great Dane on its hind legs. But to grab that bull's neck and to pull it backwards and to break it, that's crazy. Because he said he went down and checked the body of the animal. And his bull's head, he said, was pulled directly back or snapped its neck, he said. And the heart was removed from its chest. That's probably what it was carrying in its hand when it took off running. It was probably carrying the heart, and that's what it took off with. If you can punch through a cow's chest cavity and pull his heart out, their chest is so hard. I've been around cattle all my life. We've ran cattle forever. Bulls can graze and walk through a 4 or 5 strand barbed wire fence just grazing, your big bulls. If whatever this was took and punched through its chest and pulled its heart out, there's no human could survive a hit like that. That would be a hit like that on any human, anywhere in the main part of your body, is probably going to be fatal. So that just shows you the strength, and imagine the speed that these things have. You can't afford to let them get close to you. If they get close to you, they're going to take you out. And that's, that's probably why a lot of people, whenever I think, and I start speculating, but I think that probably the reason we don't hear these kids yell or people scream when they go missing, or Dennis Martin or them, probably because these things are so strong. They twist their heads, they pull people's heads back, they pull the animals' head. They know to break the neck or to remove the throat. They're predators. They know how to do it fast, because in the wild, if they get hurt, a small injury to them can be life-threatening. So they will go after the littlest and the weakest most of the time, but they will always kill as fast as they can to keep themselves from getting hurt. It also makes me wonder, are these creatures running with packs of coyotes and packs of wolves? And some people have even mentioned, saying they've seen Bigfoot grazing with cows in the pastures on his all fours. Have these creatures learned to use our animals that we trust as disguises? Is that why that we can go out into our fields and not see them if they're out there grazing and you think it's a cow or a coyote, or they're eating the feed that you're throwing out? Just imagine the strength of one of these, and you walk outside and that thing gets a hold of you, or it hits you. It's going to take you out and go right in your house and take your family out. Probably a good thing he listened to his wife. But I thought that was a really good sighting, really good encounter, and it's actually not far from me. It's only about, I think he said, he lives over, and I'm trying to think, he's on the lake. He's probably, trying to get my distances, probably about 9 miles from me. So guys, be careful while you're out. I hope you enjoyed this video, doing it outside, guys. I thought a little bit of different scenery would be nice for once. It's starting to cool down. And as you can see, it's beautiful out here today. We got a lot of cloud cover, the sun's setting. And I wanted to share it with you with the cows, because he had mentioned cows, and I thought, man, that would just go good with this story, because we have all the cows out here today. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. Until next time, keep your head on a swivel. And if you're out around the animals, guys, make sure it's the kind of animal you think it is and not something sneaking up on you. Thanks for watching, guys.